Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review. Help spread the word about Baseball Shangri-La. Tell them to come join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you guys. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi. Long weekend. Lots of baseball news, eh?
Yeah, right? All of a sudden, it's like every week it's the same thing, Amie. It's like, well, what are we going to talk about? We don't have a lot to talk about. And then it seems like right when we're about to record is when all of a sudden everything happens, right?
Yep. And then it's like, oh God, what are we going to cut? How long is this episode going to be?
Yes, exactly. So there are a lot of things. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amie, we got a lot of baseball topics that we want to go ahead and address, but I do want to address some of the comments from the comments corner, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, I do want to give thanks to DJ Jesse for acknowledging our last episode and the fact that we addressed the fires. Look, sometimes life gets in the way, guys, in reality, so we do have to acknowledge it. I do thank you. I haven't gotten around.
Uh-oh. Did you knock the Ethernet cord out? Juan, come back to us. Oh no. Okay, so Juan's been eaten by the bots. There you are.
Can you? I was talking the whole time. You didn't hear me?
Oh, you sounded like you got eaten by a robot, my friend.
Oh, do I sound better now?
Yes, you look a little Max Headroom-y, but I think you look. Oh, you're evening out. Look at you. So for anybody who's not watching the YouTube channel, you just missed the gradations of tech on half of our studio.
Well, let's get our magic eraser out, Amie. You ready?
Doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo.
And a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amie, let's start with the comments corner. As I was mentioning before, I turned into Max Headroom, and for anybody who gets that reference, well, you get a point for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Jesse had recommended an interview with Ellen Kershaw, and I just haven't had a chance to get around to it, DJ. But once I do, I will go ahead and bring that over. I do want to acknowledge Timotle. I mean, Timotle had some really nice breakdowns in terms of Sasaki, Roki Sasaki. Yeah,
This is the leftover tech bugs that you're dealing with.
Darn I'm having a really hard time here. So I do want to address some of Timotle's comments on Sasaki. Because I think he brings up valid points in terms of Sasaki, because we're going to get to see more of him. I know there's going to be people out there who are going to say they watched him in the Japanese league all the time, and they're going to be experts on Sasaki and all that stuff. But
and good for those people. We need those people.
So I do appreciate when Timotle says, I'm just going to read this out because I don't want to mess it up. But he has a preference for pitchers' traits, and that is location, then movement, and the last thing that he looks for in a pitcher is velocity. And he's comparing Sasaki to Yamamoto and Yamamoto's profile coming over. Sasaki's profile appears to be velocity, movement, and then location. You're absolutely right, Timotle. I didn't realize how hard Sasaki throws. Like Sasaki, I didn't realize he's getting close to three digits on there. So just wrapping up, honestly, that's kind of the most the MO on a lot of the Dodgers pitchers is that emphasis on velocity, which may make you a little nervous, Amie. I don't know about you. It's like these guys who throw hard, and then the next thing we know, they get injured. But yeah, it's I really appreciate that breakdown. Timo. Please feel free to add any other comments that you'd like, because I do appreciate your input. I want to acknowledge Jose Ayala, who let me know that the Lord of the Rings is the work of El Diablo. And well, actually, I will say it's Jose Ayala's
Mm.
wife. Jose Ayala's wife believes that the Lord of the Rings is the work of El Diablo, and I think I've never met her. I think she's a brilliant woman. She was able to make that recognition. Let's go to a super fan of the Lord of the Rings. Amie, do you agree with that comment?
I think that me and Jose Ayala's wife will just agree to disagree on that. I think we have a couple different comments from some of our other listeners that are very pro Lord of the Rings. So, I think everybody just gets to have their own opinion. I still will drag Juan kicking and screaming, to watch the movies at some point. He doesn't know when. It'll be a surprise. But for everybody else, watch them, don't watch them. Much like David Wants a Taco still hasn't seen Heat.
Yes, David, you have to let us know once you do see Heat. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And in terms of the Lord of the Rings, whenever I have 9 or 12 hours to spare to do some walking, I will watch the Lord of the Rings.
See, but that's the beauty of it. You don't have to do the walking. Let them do it for you.
There we go. All right, let's get into some baseball talk here. So we were talking the Motless comments about Roki Sasaki, and up until this point, it had been the obligatory Roki Sasaki mention, and I think there was some growing fatigue about, all right, how much more can we talk about this guy? Can we just talk about it once it happens?
Well, because it's all like the rumor mill, which you and I both abhor during the off season, where it's like, tell me when it's official. That's when I want to know about it.
Well, it finally happened on a Friday night news dump, Amie.
It did. I think at 3-ish on Friday afternoon Pacific time, we were all alerted on Instagram. I think I was still working and you had sent me a text and I saw it and it was just, oh my gosh, he's a Dodger.
I have to say that I love that these guys are breaking their own news, which it's the way it should be, right? It's just like they come out and they tell us who they are signing with. I know we're going to get into this later on in the show, but this whole idea of breaking news by sports journalists is a process that I think is a little bit broken. As I said, we're going to get into it later. But in terms of the Roki signing itself, Amie, your thoughts?
I mean, it's good. It's everything that the fan base has been wanting. The front office has been aggressively pursuing him. It was even, I had to obviously change his Instagram post to see the translation because I don't speak Japanese. But even just the fact that he mentioned it was a difficult decision, he's going to do his best to make it the right decision so that when he looks back after his baseball career is over, that, he knows it was the right one for him. And so good for him. And I think it really encapsulates what's been going on, at least from the Dodgers side, everybody trying to recruit him over. I don't know if you saw the Tyler Glasnow interview on Foul Territory, but he was sharing how he had called and, was just like, hey, if your goal's to be the best pitcher, scouting wise, development wise, this is where you want to be. And, I think that means a lot coming from players, especially if they're considered more of those high leverage pitchers who have been around the league, to be able to get that perspective outside of just Shohei Ohtani. I think that lends a lot of credibility to the team itself as well.
Yeah, and look, he gets extra points for me because when he posted that picture of the Dodger hat on the seat, that was the top deck, ladies and gentlemen. So Roki was showing love to the top deckers, that are usually the poors. The poors sit up there in the top deck. So I think
the poors or the last minute ticket grabbers. I don't know. Some people like to view up there. My first season ticket was up there.
Look, good for him. And then also Miguel Rojas gave up number 11. Do we know what was the trade involved for getting number 11?
Maybe it was just out of the goodness of his heart. I know he's taking 72, reclaiming his number from 2014. But if there was like a transaction involved, Miggy Rowe, he's probably not going to share that.
I bet you it's a pair of shoes.
Used or new?
No, news. I mean, Miguel Rojas loves himself and his shoes. I bet you, and I'm sure it's going to come out later on, but I bet you it's going to be that Miguel Rojas said, "Buy me a new pair of shoes," and with your new money that you got there.
I mean, I know transactions are a thing. Obviously, we saw what happened with Shohei and Joe Kelly, but I'm curious, like, does it always have to be a transaction, or is it sometimes just people doing it out of the goodness of their heart? Is
Yeah,
that
I
me
mean,
being an optimist?
I think you might be right. I mean, I'm sure there might have been some occasions where they're just like, "No, man, no big deal." But for the most part, whenever a person gives up their number, there is some sort of compensation for them giving up their number.
Well, and
Now,
Miggy Rowe even has the number 11 tattooed, like, on the inside of his wrist. Like, that's his it's been his number for a while.
well, a good tattoo artist can change that to a 72, right? They can make it work.
No, you just get a 72 in addition. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
you don't need to cover everything up.
I'm going to defer to you because you are the expert on the ink, so you know what you're talking about when it comes to
Juan
ink.
says this, but he's secretly covered. That's why he's always in a hoodie. We're gonna
I
find out he's sleeved, covered, like, total bodysuit.
For those of you, I look like Max Cady underneath this hoodie. Dun 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 dun. Um, Look, a lot was made over the fact that he chose 11 because that's Yu Darvish's number over there with the show pods. I know the show pods were angry. It's going to lead us into this next topic. The show pods
So
fans.
many topics.
Uh,
Well, but we still, like, just numbers wise for anybody who hasn't seen, he did sign for the 6.5 million. And then I think it was Jack Harris that actually broke it down where he was talking about, because some people did not know this. There were some questions out there, what's going to happen in the next couple of years. So for those, just a little research, the team is going to be paying as little as the league minimum for his first 3 seasons. So for 2025, that'll be 760 million. I don't think million.
765,000.
760,000. That's a little typo on my part. So 760,000 for 2025. 2026 will be 780,000. They haven't negotiated for 2027 yet. But as soon as 2028, that's when he can start earning significant raises through arbitration, as we've seen, the Dodgers do before. So they're still essentially getting a bargain with him, much like the Angels got with Shohei. Because I was doing some of the research on that. I didn't realize they basically, the 6 years that Shohei was with the Angels, they got him for under 40 million.
Look, we're going to address this when we talk about some of these other signings. I don't know. To me, there's no other way to look at it. The Angels really fumbled the Shohei situation because of exactly what you just mentioned right now. But when you see how much money the Dodgers are making off of Shohei, I have to scratch my head and be like, if you believe what was said, that if the Angels would have matched that offer, that Shohei would have chose to stay with the Angels, I have to scratch my head and look at that organization and be like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is your plan?
But that falls into the what if game, though. If they do offer him that, the Angels haven't really made it to the postseason. So then Shohei, regardless of the payday, still isn't accomplishing his goals that he's setting out to do. Where, as we saw in the first season with the Dodgers, not only did he make it to the postseason, but he won the World Series. So payday or not, I think that's also going to lend itself to our conversation in a
Exactly.
second about, like, whether they spend a lot of money or they don't,
Before we get into that conversation, let's talk about the pre-cut, the secret handshake deal with Sasaki. Amie.
Allegedly.
Go ahead. Do you want to?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, in researching that, there was a lot of interesting stuff that came out in articles across the LA Times, The Athletic, etc. It was interesting to me before we get to the kind of the handshake deal, but while he was meeting with the other teams, he actually had the teams do homework. So some of these owners, some of them thought it was impressive, some of them were a little irked by it, but he asked the owners that were going to be basically looking at him to join the team, why did his velocity fall off in his final season? Which made me think of Tim Otley's kind of deduction in our comments. But this was presented to them days before the meeting. Like I said, mixed views by the executives, but they were all giving like 90-minute presentations to him about his pitching. And a lot of people think that it was predetermined that he was going to come to the Dodgers no matter what, alleging that there was a handshake deal in place, even though the Dodgers have very publicly been pursuing him over years. So the MLB actually investigated it. They found that no illegal arrangement was found, and they conducted that investigation before he even posted. So they authorized his posting, and they just wanted to ensure the protocol agreement had been followed. So some people, again, are saying cover up. Other people are saying protocols were followed. People are going to come to their own conclusions.
And sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer, Amie, which is why wouldn't Roki Sasaki want to go to the Dodgers? Yamamoto and Shohei are there. They just won the World Series. They are set up to continue to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
People watch their games. Fans go to their games. Do you want to get into the joke?
They travel well.
Exactly.
Other teams make money when the Dodgers come into town. That's why I don't go to Angels games when the Dodgers play, because tickets are like $100 for, almost upper level seats. Like, you're welcome.
I love what that he made them have presentations and basically was testing them, so to speak. I think that's the markings of someone that knows how to interview, because it's not about them interviewing you. You need to interview them as well. So there's a lot of factors, right, that go into this decision, but at the same time, let's not overthink this, guys. I mean, there is no other team that makes a more compelling argument than to come play with us. And I know people were trying to make the argument, well, he wanted to go play with you, Darvish, or he wants to be the star.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Exactly.
He
Or
said it was a difficult decision.
And who's to say that this guy can't be the star when he's with the Dodgers? If this guy's as good as everyone says he is, why couldn't he be a bigger star than Yamamoto or than Shohei? Like, why can't he? Like, if he's the biggest star on the Dodgers, wouldn't that make him just like the biggest star in Major League Baseball?
Well, and with that, I mean, everybody has a favorite, right? Like, you could poll different people with the superstar caliber that is the Dodgers, and people have different favorites all over. Like, I think all of our players are amazing. My favorite continues to be, I mean, obviously he's not a Dodger right now, but Kike Hernandez. I think Shohei is amazing. I think, all of them, Freddie, Mookie, we have our favorites. And so different people are going to speak to different fans for why they like them. Maybe you like them all. Maybe you like, you have your handful. Like, it just, this one size all mode just seems interesting to me too. Like,
It goes back to the eye test, Amie. You can't ignore the eye test. I mean, look, the obvious is, yes, the Dodgers were always going to be hard to beat in a negotiation because they are so alluring. So let's not make this out to be something in terms of, and look, in the NBA, drink, by the way, everybody, in the NBA, they have this
water, by the way, just water.
free agents can sign on such and such date. Why is it that the minute that deadline starts, that you can start signing, there's already deals announced? Well, wait, they weren't supposed to be able to talk or negotiate during that time until free agency opens, but yet all of a sudden there's deals. So this whole
it would be ridiculous to think somebody doesn't have a preference, especially as players are saying, like, I grew up like Roki Sasaki has said he grew up watching the Dodgers, maybe not just the Dodgers, but a lot of these players grew up. I think even Hae-Sung Kim had said he grew up watching certain players. That's, one of the reasons he chose the number he chose. It's interesting too, because there were several people saying that managers they wanted that investigation into it. Come to find out, the investigation had already happened. But these are the same people that have gone out and said, well, they're probably not even going to go to the Dodgers. Like, Roki's he's going to go to one of the other teams. And people are allowed to change their mind. They're allowed to change their viewpoint. But I don't understand some of the vitriol when it comes to this stuff, because the Dodgers, before they made some of those trades, had the least amount of money in their signing pool. So if he did come to the Dodgers, it was because of things like the environment, the training that he was going to get. Because I read that the Padres were attempting to free up almost 10 million in their signing pool to be able to get him. And if he still went with the Dodgers, that speaks to his decision. Handshake deal or not, he can still go do what he wants to do.
Right. And then you mentioned, well, you didn't mention him by name, and I am going to throw him out there, and that's Jim Bowden. I feel what Jim Bowden said in regards to the Roki Sasaki thing, it speaks to a larger issue, I think, with sports journalism, and it might lead us into our next topic. But basically, Jim Bowden had come out there and made the argument that he didn't think he was going to, sign with the Dodgers, that he was going to, that all these other teams were going to have a better chance of signing with the Dodgers. And then Roki picks the Dodgers, and then Jim Bowden is the one going out there saying that the owners want an investigation into this, right? And for me, what is dangerous about that, Amie, is I know you hate this, right? You hate these sources. And we never know who these
Source
sources
of a
are.
source, undisclosed source close to the source.
Undisclosed source. Is some of these guys, these baseball insiders, are out there spewing these agendas. And it's who are these agendas serving, right? Who is leaking this information? Is it Major League Baseball and the vested interest because they want all eyes? They want people talking about Roki Sasaki. And it's like, Jim, we need you to go out there, make it seem like these other teams have the ability. Like this, it all seems like it's theater to me, Amie.
Well, it's
And
stirring the pot. And to me, like, again, that goes back to, you're right. I don't like it because I feel like this is supposed to be our happy place. Like, we like, whether you're, baseball is your thing, or you love, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Wars, like whatever your thing is, like, why would you bring vitriol into it? Why would you bring like just divisiveness? Because that's what it feels like it's bringing into it. Can you change your mind or change your view on things as you go? Absolutely, because life is fluid. So are things like this. But I think it's how you deliver it. And I think with some of these sources, because we don't have access to that information, part of me wonders, is it the divisiveness we're trying to spread, maybe even unknowingly, if we're not, self-analyzing? Is some of it, I just want to be first and report it, and because I was first, this was my view then, and now that I want to be first on this, I've changed my view just to like go with the top? Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's making for a very healthy space in baseball.
I appreciate you bringing up the point. I do think people can change their opinion. This didn't feel like a change of opinion for me. This
Right.
felt
It's
in a
how
couple
you
of ways.
message it. It's how you message it.
What this felt was one of two things. One is I got to cover my tracks because you don't want to admit you were wrong. You may have really believed you got intel from other teams. People were leaking stuff to you saying, no, we have a legitimate shot of signing this guy. And you just don't want to look bad. So you go out there and you say, no, this needs to be investigated. Or you're doing this to promote a narrative. And this is going to lead us into our next topic with these signings. This narrative about it's with the CBA coming up. I really believe, Amie, they're going to try to change rules. And these rules are basically going to be to stop the Dodgers, and what they are doing. The same thing happened in the NBA to Will Chamberlain and to Shaquille O'Neal. They literally changed the rules of the game specifically for these players to impact them. It seems like there is a narrative that is being laid out. We can talk about the signings that caused this conversation to come up, but that's to me the real issue that I have with the Jim Bowden thing is it doesn't feel like it was genuine. It feels like you're pushing a narrative here that all of a sudden contradicts what you were just saying a few weeks ago. And I just didn't feel it was genuine. I felt like it was like, who is feeding you this? Who is telling you that this is a conversation that we need to put out there as the CBA comes? I can't help but believe that this is going to be an issue. And honestly, Amie, to tell you the truth, even if they change the rules, I still don't think it's going to impact the Dodgers.
No. I mean, there was already, I think I'm trying to check my notes here. MLB Trade Rumors did a poll on the salary cap on if we should have one or not. 67% said yes, 33% said no. Out of that, the yeses was 17,354 votes. The no's were 8,546 votes. So I guess that kind of will segue us into the next topic, because that is part of the conversation is, salary cap, et cetera, especially in light of signing, reliever closer Tanner Scott to a 4-year, $72 million deal. And kind of in the vein of, has it been corroborated yet? Or is it, are we just trying to get the news out there as quickly as possible? The Dodgers are in talks with Kirby Yates. I have not seen that it's been posted officially yet. There hasn't been a number associated with it, just that they're in talks, which to me, when I was texting you earlier, I was like, tell me when it's official. Because if they're just in talks, like, I'm sure they're in talks with lots of players. Like, tell me when it's a little bit more, it's progressed, he's passed the physical, and it's like, yes, we're going to go forward.
And let's put some names to that. So Bob Nightingale was the one who reported that the Dodgers were closing a deal with Kirby Yates. Now, what I also thought was interesting was in that same piece, Bob Nightingale is reporting that Michael Kopech has a shoulder issue, and he may not start the season. He may start the season on the IL. And if that's true, this Kirby Yates signing makes perfect sense, because we all know what shoulder issues are. All right. We don't know. Shoulder issues could be something like Yamamoto's, that you take a few months and you can come back. Or they might turn into a Clayton Kershaw situation where it ends your season. So that to me makes me feel, with the Dodgers signing Kirby Yates, is they may be a little concerned about Michael Kopech's availability for the season. And why not get an insurance policy with a guy like Kirby Yates? So let's go to the Tanner Scott thing.
Well, and with that, it's also the phrasing of how this comes out. And like, people are allowed to say whatever they want in the media. Like, if you want to report it that way, but the way that Nightingale's came out was the Los Angeles Dodgers, who already have folks screaming about their payroll, have reached a tentative agreement with free agent closer Kirby Yates pending a physical. So it's even just the wording of how, like, we're putting it out there is any of that untrue? No, but it's also, how are we setting up the story as well?
And it lends itself, that verbiage lends itself, that if a deal doesn't happen, that the deal broke down because Jack Harris of the Los Angeles Times later on that same day came out, said that the deal is not official, that they are in talks. So look, so the rumor is the Dodgers may be getting Kirby Yates, but it is not official. It is not a done deal. What is a done deal, and they have announced, is the Tanner Scott deal.
Correct.
Now, that's the deal that kind of made everyone again lose their mind in Major League Baseball, because Tanner Scott is believed to be the best relief option available on the market. Now, if you believe what is being reported, and it was again Bob Nightingale, and look, Bob Nightingale at one point had a reputation, I think, kind of like John Heyman, but this past offseason, Bob Nightingale was right more than he was wrong. So he reported some big signings in this offseason. But Bob Nightingale was reporting that Tanner Scott's first option was the Cubs. He wanted to go to the Chicago Cubs, the Cachorros, but the Cachorros wouldn't go to that 4th year. So look, the rumor was he wanted $20 million a year. The Dodgers end up getting him at 72. And as my compadre said to me, he's like, look, it's not cheap. And it's like, all right, let's look at that. Let's try to be objective here. As much as everybody wants to hate the Dodgers and say the Dodgers are ruining baseball, the Dodgers are overpaying these people. They are giving these people more than market value it could be, or they're paying them a lot of money.
Well, and like Andrew Friedman said, they're doing this for the fans expect this. Like, otherwise,
He said it's a reward. He said it's a reward to the fans. We are rewarding the fans by doing this. So you tell me how the Dodgers are the bad guys in this situation when the player himself wanted to go to another team, but it was another team that wasn't willing to give him what he wanted. And the Dodgers were willing to go ahead and do that. Now, I know this is when people will argue that, well, the Dodgers have an unfair advantage financially. And that, I think, is a fair argument. They do have an unfair advantage. But that also has to do with the fact of where they're located. They're located in Los Angeles. They have that TV deal that a lot of teams in Major League Baseball don't have. So they can also take advantage of that. But they also have Shohei Ohtani. And shouts out to my compadre again, who my compadre feels that the way the Dodgers are spending money this year is because that's how much money they made off of Shohei last year. They made so much money. So again, how is that the Dodgers' problem? The Angels had Shohei, like Amie said, and the Angels weren't able to maximize Shohei's value.
Or
Or
put
if
a
they
team around him that would win.
exactly, or if they did, they pocketed the rest of that money. They didn't put it back into the team like the Dodgers are doing right now. So this is why you can go ahead and change the rules all you want in the CBA to try to even the playing field, but the Dodgers are the smartest guys in the room right now. My compadre says to me all the time, and he's a Yankees fan. He says to me all the time, I don't understand why other teams don't buy into the deferrals. Any other team can do it. Why aren't these other teams doing the deferrals?
So there's a couple quotes that I picked up this week because the good or bad for baseball thing is just so pervasive online right now. And when we're saying good or bad for baseball, let's just call it what it is. People are hating on the Dodgers. That's fine if they're not your team. But John Becker on Twitter was quick to point out that they have to put that deferment money away by the 2nd July after the contract year. So for example, by 2027, they have to have that money put away for any 2025 deferrals. And it has to be in cash or cash equivalents. So they can't just stick the money in the stock market until 2025 or whenever the money is paid out, or sorry, 2035, whenever that money is paid out. So like just a reminder to people that while yes, the Dodgers do have a larger pool, they're also putting it back into the team, but some of these owners are billionaires. They're not hurting for money. So if they wanted to actually put the money back into the team, they could do that, especially for some of those teams that are drawing on the competitive balance tax pool of money. So I don't know. Somebody on Twitter at JHeyKid had posted the Dodgers sign players because they're offered the most money equals the sport is broken. But then the Dodgers sign a player when they don't offer the most money because of the quality of the organization and a winning environment that they've built, and the sport is still broken. So like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. They got Roki Sasaki because they're a quality organization and they didn't even have the most to offer signing bonus wise. But they sign all these other players and oh my God, the sport is broken. You'll see stuff with Joe Kelly explaining, why the salary cap is ridiculous on Baseball Isn't Boring. And to me, it's you need a salary floor because I don't think players are not going to agree to a salary cap. That limits them. It doesn't limit the owners. The owners are still going to get those players if whether you put a cap on there or not. It's going to impact those players. It's the floor that needs to hold the managers accountable.
And for those that aren't familiar with Mariachi Joe's explanation, go watch the video at Our Friends with Baseball Isn't Boring, where he makes an interesting point. If you're coming over, do you want to live in Los Angeles for a season, or do you want to play in Milwaukee and in Minnesota? And to be fair to what Mariachi Joe is saying, there have been players who didn't pick the Dodgers because they didn't want to live in LA, aka Anthony Rendon.
Mm-hmm.
He did not want that Hollywood lifestyle. He didn't want to be a part of that. So again, the other thing I think that is largely being ignored in this argument is the players are the ones making these decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner Scott wanted the Cubs. The Cubs weren't willing to give him what he wanted. So, all right, well, I'm going to the Dodgers. You know, it's again, the Dodgers have created an environment where players want to go over there. Now, I don't know. Maybe you're privy to this. I'm not. I don't think the Dodgers have ridiculous rules like the Yankees where you can't have a beard. It seems like the Dodgers allow these players to be who they are. And Amie and I have been privy of being in that locker room. And it does feel like that locker room polices itself. Dave Roberts is a player's manager, but in the end, they have guys in that locker room that have established a culture. And it just seems that everybody that plays there are obviously some exceptions. Thor didn't seem like he was too happy. There are players that'll come out there and be like, well, I don't agree with what the organization is. But for the most part, when you have a guy like the Oscar Hernandez who is willing to give up money because he wants to stay there, again, these are the players. The players are making these decisions. Yes, the Dodgers have an unfair advantage financially. They are taking advantage of that. When that deal with Spectrum ends in 2038, they might not have that advantage. But for right now, they had that advantage and they are taking, they're fully going along with it. And I appreciate when Andrew Friedman says we are rewarding the fans, because come 2038, when they sign a new TV deal, it may not be as lucrative. And by then, you're going to be seeing the end of the Shohei. So you may not be making more as much money as you were making now off of the piggy bank, which is Shohei.
And if it is lucrative, again, it's because of the market they're in. They're in LA. They're not a small market team, so they could still be able to use that to their advantage and negotiate something. We don't know how that's going to shake out. Bob Nightingale had posted in the USA Today, Cubs president Jed Hoyer had a really, I thought it was, in all of the kind of the negativity that we're seeing, he had some really positive stuff to say about the Dodgers organization, kind of in line with what you just said. It's a little bit longer quote, but I think to me, it was worthwhile. People focus on the size of their, my abbreviations here are not great. The size of so people focus on the size of their payroll and their deferments and stuff like that. But it's just a great organization that kind of running on all cylinders. They do well in the draft. They do well internationally. They make smart trades. They do a good job of finding value on the margins. And they can also go sign major free agents. So I just think that focusing on the amount of money they spend does a disservice to an organization that's already running at a really high level. And I think that speaks to exactly what you were just saying. Like, he's at least giving the Dodgers their kudos, because it isn't just about money. Because at the end of the day, are the Dodgers spending a lot? Absolutely. They've already spent, I saw a number, $445.5 million this offseason. But money doesn't guarantee that you're going to win. The last few World Series prior to this last year, those were all teams that were either like third in the wild card, second in the wild card in the 2023 World Series. The Phillies won in 2022. They were the third wild card. In 2021, the Braves, they won the World Series. They had 88 wins during the season. So with the expanded playoffs, it's not, you don't have to win the whole season anymore. It's slow and steady. If you can make it in as a wild card and work your way up, that doesn't necessarily require money. So it just, I don't know. I think there's so many facets to this that it's unfair to just make one team the villain because your ownership doesn't spend, or you don't like the way that the rules are stacked, or maybe you don't even understand the way that the rules work all the way.
Look, these are fans, and I totally. Fans are emotional. They're having this reaction because they feel like their team doesn't have a chance to win. And you just explained it perfectly. I'm old enough to remember a team that won 111 games and they lost in the divisional round of the Show Pods. I know another team that lost to another wild card team the next year, in the Serpientes. This doesn't guarantee anything. Health is already an issue. You with these reports with Michael Kopech. So you already have Brusdar Graterol, you have Kopech. Look, Kopech, we went through this in past episodes. The number of injuries that they have on there. I'm still not convinced that Tyler Glasnow is healthy. I'm not convinced that Tyler Glasnow can make it through a season healthy, right? We saw what happened with Yamamoto. So there are a lot of question marks. They're on paper, they look fantastic. They are they are Tigers on paper, right? But this is why you play the game. This is why you have the season, because things happen and things go crazy and you just never know. But you put yourself in a position to give the best chance to win. So when fans are reacting like this, it doesn't. I expect it like this.
Mhm.
What I have issues with is the baseball insiders, and that's what I find really interesting because Jeff Passan of ESPN, Jeff Passan has seemed to be very pro player. And Jeff Passan is the one that keeps writing articles, basically saying your point, Amy. It's like, this is on the owners. Like, the owners can do what the Dodgers are doing, but
Maybe
they
not
are not.
even to the extent, but they can do more. Let's
Yeah.
just say.
Yeah. So I find that Jeff Passan is doing this with a major partner of Major League Baseball like ESPN, but then you have other MLB insiders that are pushing these narratives. And we already addressed, okay, the floor, the salary floor. The owners don't want that, right? And I think one of the other issues there is the owners don't want to spend their own money. How many owners are billionaires, right? And if they could do what Cohen and the Metropolitans is doing, they could do that, but they don't want to do that, right? So they're operating not only off of what the revenue that the business is generating, but then also let's not forget the money that they're getting from the Dodgers, that they're getting from the Yankees, that they're getting from others. Okay. So let's not forget that. So it's very convenient for when you bring up the salary floor, the owners are like, no, 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 we don't want that. Okay, well, then let's look to the other argument about the CBA, the salary cap. The players don't want that. And
Mhm.
that's where you're going to have the issue, right? Between the owners and the players. They don't have the same interests, right? And again, who's driving these deferrals? I can't stress this enough, guys. The player has to agree to the deferral. If the player doesn't want a deferral, because correct me if I'm wrong here, Amy, Soto doesn't have any deferrals in his
I
contract, correct? Or
I
does he?
don't believe so, but, like, even in the Shohei case, him and his agent presented that to the Dodgers. It wasn't the Dodgers' idea.
Yeah, so this is player empowerment. So this is why again it all points to the CBA. That's what I'm paying attention to. The fans are going to react the way they're going to react. I totally get that. The other argument that I see is they need to put a limit on the deferrals. And it's just like if your team is not doing deferrals, why does it matter if there's a limit on the deferrals? If the Dodgers are doing the deferrals the way that Amy just described it to you, it's because they have the money. If they don't have the money, they're not going to do the deferrals. Amy, I saw this and it made me think of you. Do you know one of the
Uh,
top?
Juan Soto has no deferrals.
Okay. So Juan Soto has no deferrals. So again, if the player doesn't want deferrals, there's no, like, give me my money. I want my money. That's what's going to happen. So if a player agrees to a deferral, you can't put that on the team. The team is trying to do what's best to make a winner. So again, these narratives, they have holes in them, and for me they're just all trying to establish the next negotiation where it is trying. Owners, I think right now are embarrassed by the fact that the Dodgers, the organization, is running laps around them in terms of creativity. One of the front offices that I think is competitive with them is the Bravos. The Bravos took the approach where they signed a lot of their young talent to long-term deals for deals that are probably under market value. But the players accepted that. You know, that's on the player. If you accept that contract, that's on them. So the Bravos thought outside of the box. Why can't these other teams start thinking outside of the box?
But nobody, if they've already got a model, you don't have to get creative. Just copy it. It's not breaking the rules. If you like that model and you're an owner and you want to please your fans, just copy it. You the players are going to potentially be open to it or they're not. Like you said, if another team is willing to do it and they can back it up because they can put that deferment away in the next 2 years, there's nothing preventing other teams from doing this. And I think to your point earlier, where with the floor, managers just aren't spending and they're continuing to take that in. I think there needs to be some accountability of if you are not spending year over year outside of the what we talked about where they're getting, they can they can have a grievance filed against them, which we saw. There's, some teams have multiple grievances over years that nothing's been decided. They're still pending even from 2019. To me, it's, well, if you have a team like, let's say, the Oakland A's that are scurrying to spend and actually pay for players this year just so that they can access those funds, that's a problem, especially when you have a fan base that wants to, go to games, see a competitive team put on the field. It's not fair to fan bases, and it's not fair to the other teams that are putting that pool money in if the other teams are just not really drawing on that.
To circle on what you just said right now, to follow up on what you just said, because I thought of you when I saw this, and that is the teams that have spent the most free agent money this offseason. Now, these numbers are a little skewed because the team that has spent the most in the free agent this offseason is actually not the Dodgers. It's the Metropolitans. And it's because of that huge contract that they gave Juan Soto. So they almost are at $1 billion in free agent spending. Then come the Dodgers, that are around 400 million, excuse me, in free agent signing. Then the Yankees. The Yankees are at 235 million. Then the Serpientes, which again I cannot stress enough, don't have a TV deal, and they have spent over $200 million this offseason. Okay. The Gigantes are close to $200 million. The Rangers, the Texas Rangers, who had, one season away from winning the World Series, they have spent 136 million. And then we get to the Oakland Athletics at 81 million, right? So they
still need to get a little over 100 to be able to draw from the pool, if I remember correctly. I think like
well, that's what I wanted to get.
105,000 or
That's what I
105
wanted. That's what I wanted to bring up because so they are the seventh team, the seventh highest team in terms of money spent in the offseason. So a lot of people like to use this as the argument.
When was the last time that happened?
Exactly. They're like, so the Oakland A's are spending and the rest of these teams are not spending. And that's why I wanted to go and go listen to Amie. Amie, why are the Oakland Athletics spending as much money as they're spending in the offseason?
Because they want to get the baseball pool of money. I don't know anything
They're
else.
basically threatened. For those of you who don't understand, can you explain it to them in layman's terms, Amie?
If they don't spend to a certain threshold, they don't get their payout from the CBT pool that all of the larger market teams pay into. So they're spending to get access to money that they wouldn't otherwise spend, or that at least their fans have not seen them otherwise spend in previous years.
So it's not to be competitive, guys. It's not that they want a competitive team. They're doing this so they can get more money. And not only that, like Amie mentioned, they have grievances filed against them because they didn't spend money.
Mhm.
So
And still access the pool for those years, as far as I understand.
So please don't use the Oakland A. Well, not the Oakland. Please don't use the Athletics as examples of, oh, look, there's teams that are out there that are spending, because this is disingenuous. They are not spending to make the team better or be competitive. They are spending it so they can get more money.
Which is a disservice to fans.
Yes. And that is an issue with Major League Baseball. That is a problem that won't be addressed because the commissioner of Major League Baseball works for the owners. So the same reason that the owners don't want a salary floor, they don't want people paying attention to what John Fisher is doing. I know there's people that out there that believes there are people dying to buy the Athletics, especially if they end up moving to Vegas. They want to go ahead and own that team and see if they can make it, a profitable business. This guy has his own model, and this is why I believe those small market teams have no desire to spend their own money. They want to spend.
Should be some type of, okay, if you don't want a floor, fine, to reward the fan bases for teams like for the A's, the Angels. If you are not going to put a competitive team out on the field, if you're not going to try, I don't know who's drawing from that pool at this point, but if you're going to do that, if you don't put a competitive team, especially with the expanded playoffs that we have now, then you should have to sell your team, because as much as people hate the Dodgers right now, they're putting butts in seats. They have merch sales. They're with Shohei, they're, leading the MLB. They are driving commerce in baseball for everybody who hates them. They are still driving the dollar for the MLB. What can you say for all of these teams that are complaining? What are you doing for the MLB? How are you moving it forward?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that they need to sell their teams. I will say this: you have no right to bitch and moan when nobody goes to your games, and then ask the
But
public.
how is that good for the fans though? And how is that good for the like when you compete against those teams?
But that's on the owner. If the owner is not willing to invest in his product, you then can't cry and be like, "Well, how come nobody wants my product?"
No, I
You
agree.
have a crappy product.
They can't cry about that, but it's not fair to fans, but it's also not fair to players. You don't work that hard to come up through the minors to go play on a team that is going to be you don't have the support of like a quality team around you, whether that's you putting money into management, quality management and player development, making a good culture in your organization, or just bolstering the team that you have on the field. It's not fair to the players, it's not fair to the fans. So at what point do we allow the stagnation to just continue, because that hurts baseball as well. You're not moving the game forward. Maybe you don't have to sell it, whatever. I still think there should be some kind of way to hold them accountable, because the grievances don't work. So if it means going to the extreme of what are you doing, something needs to change, because they aren't moving the needle in a positive direction for baseball. And then you have people who are crying, well, other teams have become the Dodgers farm system. That's an argument I've been hearing a lot lately, where it's like, okay, but what is your team doing to field players, regardless of if they have a good farm system? Kershaw came up through there. We did have some good players. They did end up getting traded away. Seager, Bellinger, like players come up. They have a good farms. Half the pitchers we used last year were minor leaguers that came up through the farm system. So I just, it would be nice to not have the excuses and actually just get to the root of the problem. There's a couple different roots in that case, but like it doesn't feel like we're addressing that. And the whole goal is to move baseball forward.
I don't feel bad for minor leaguers coming up in those teams and making themselves stars, because they eventually leave, and they leave and go where they can control their own destiny, they control their own career, and they end up going where they want to go.
After
And
the best years of their life, though, potentially, because you're under control and then arbitration and like,
true, it is true, but you still have to prove yourself.
right.
You have to prove yourself, and the thing is if you start as a rookie, the likelihood is you're probably not going to have a chance to play in the Dodgers as a rookie, because they have stars. But once you become a star, the Dodgers will make room for you and play there. And like I said,
But not
I
every player will be a star. They're going to be great MLB players, but not every player is going to be a star and get to negotiate that.
yeah.
So I mean, even if you're just, you know what, my whole career I was a good player, I still want to be on a team that has a shot. And if the only way to do that, fans can't do that. Fans can't go out and recruit players and bring them onto the team. The only people who can do that are the ownership.
Yeah, I mean, again, but they police themselves. So
Yeah.
who's going to enforce these rules when they pay the commissioner? They're the ones paying the commissioner's salary. So
Well,
I don't think this is the end of this topic, Amy. If the
no.
Dodgers end up signing somebody else, you're going to hear it all over again.
They're gonna be the villains no matter what, and that's not something that we can change, but I do think putting some logic out there and some other information can't hurt the situation. You're probably not gonna change many people's minds, and that's fine, but, here we are.
I saw a lot of people try to compare it to the NFL, and it's just not apples to apples. Yes, that league has a salary cap, and so there is more parity there, and it does seem like every team has a chance to make the playoffs or get a chance to get to the Super Bowl in that league, unless you're the Raiders. There you go. Shouts out to Mr. Raider, the ghost of Al Davis. That one was for you. Um,
They're also
but
playing more games. They have a longer season. Like, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. When people try to compare each sport, NFL to the NBA to the MLB, these are different sports.
but I
To
mean,
me, it's like it is apples to oranges in that case, like you said.
it is apples to oranges, but what fans want is that same level of parity that the NFL has in Major League Baseball. And the thing that I saw all over social media is like, oh, is that the parity you want? The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be their 7th year in the row in the AFC Championship. Is that parity? The Chiefs are basically the Dodgers, you know?
They've just
So
replaced the New England Patriots at this point.
exactly. Every sport has dynasties. Every sport has team. Look, the Yankees won the World Series, what, like 12 years in a row during like the late 40s into the 60s?
Different stats, different metrics for that time, different number of teams in the MLB.
No,
But yeah,
I get that, but baseball survived that, right?
yes.
The
That's not to take anything away from the Yankees, because they did still win at those times.
Right. And then they had another dynasty towards the end of the late 90s. Baseball survived that. We don't even, I mean, you could make an argument right now that the Dodgers are a dynasty already. They won 2 World Series. It seems like they're still in their run right now.
12
But
years in the postseason.
I mean, it is ridiculous for how long they've been able to maintain this, but they can't keep
Compared
this.
to the McCourt years.
Exactly, but they can't keep this going on forever. Eventually, this will come to an end, and Major League Baseball will survive this. So I understand why other teams' fans are upset, but this is not what the Dodgers are doing. Is not what's bad for baseball. What's bad for baseball is all the other stuff that we just covered on here. That is not helping. I feel bad for the Azulejos. Nobody wants to take their money.
They just
Like,
got Santander.
and they did, but they offered Roki more money. They offered Roki more money, but Roki chose again. That's player empowerment. The player has the decision. I want to go there. There are still a ridiculous number of big name free agents that are unsigned, and we're right around the corner from spring training starting.
Pete Alonso. Like, there's so many.
Yeah, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman. I mean, there are. Why aren't those people signed? Why was Kirby Yates still available for the Dodgers to sign? Any team could have signed him, even if you had the approach. All right, let's say, okay, well, we're not going to be able to sign Juan Soto. Okay, I get it. So you have all these other free agents that you can sign. What were you waiting for? Like, why wasn't a deal done for them? Those are the kind of things where it seems every year we're dealing with players, recognized good players, that are still waiting to sign with a team, and spring training is around the corner. And I don't.
February 11th for the Dodgers. Like, it's right there. Somebody did bring up something in regard to like Roki Sasaki too, with of the 30 teams that could have met with him, because there was an even playing field with the way that he was going to be signing coming in early, before he was 25 years old. There were 10 teams that chose not to meet with him. Like, why would you? Some people were asking the question, why would you not just take the opportunity? Like, maybe he does. Maybe it is a foregone conclusion, but why would you not try?
And that's the bottom line right there, because Stone Cold said so. But that's the bottom line, is you have to sit here and question, are these teams trying? Are they
Mm.
trying to be competitive? Are they trying to find ways? And I get it. You can't ignore the fact that the Dodgers have resources that not every team in Major League Baseball has. But the Tampa Bay Rays have found a way to be competitive. The Tampa Bay Rays have gotten into the playoffs. Yeah, okay, they don't have any World Series wins for it, but they've had more World Series appearances than some other than the Rojos. And the Rojos are a historical franchise, and it's, again, it matters who's running the team. Leadership matters in these situations, and that
And
is
that's why it's not just down to buying players, but you know what I mean? Spending
yeah.
on players. It's, who is your management? What is your clubhouse mentality? How is the culture there? What does your front office do? How does that translate to your player development? It's the Swiss Army knife that is baseball. It's not just, well, you bought all these players. We've seen that with other teams where they did have a bunch of superstars and it didn't quite gel the way they wanted it to.
Exactly.
You can see we're both very worked up about this.
I do. The Dodgers did. even though they have Roki, they did sign some other international players, right, Amy?
Yes. I was trying to find a list somewhere, so I was just able to kind of pick and choose over Twitter and some of the other social media accounts, but they've got quite a few, many from Venezuela. So Moises Rangel, um, Juan Macero. So Moises is a catcher, Juan is an infielder, Ricardo Roman, also from Venezuela, right-handed pitcher, Luis Tovar, Venezuela, shortstop. We also got Adrian Torres from Panama. He's a left-handed pitcher. Carlos Ramirez, so somebody from your family, right-handed pitcher from Venezuela.
Órale, Carlos, ¿qué huele?
Derek Aquino, right-handed pitcher, and Devlin Bautista, an outfielder. And then they did something, another first. So they signed the first ever player from the South Sudan. So they signed 17-year-old right-handed pitcher Joseph Deng. He's the second player from Africa. The Pirates actually signed the first, Armstrong Muhuzi from Uganda. But
And isn't that dang guy like super tall?
6'7", 185 pounds. Fastball, 95 miles per hour.
Well, it's a project. It's a
Mhm.
look. So those are all minor league projects.
Mhm.
The interesting thing is this. I know a couple of episodes ago we were doing math with the roster. So because Roki signed a minor league contract, Roki's not on the 40 man, so they didn't have to clear a space for Roki. If they do end up signing Yates and that becomes official, they're going to have to, it's musical chairs again. They're going to have to make another move.
And there are
And
still people, I'm getting stuff in my comments on social media. We're all still holding out hope for Kike.
exactly. So they are going to have to make more moves. Now, once spring training starts, they can start moving all those injured pitchers to the 60 days. So, Amie, I I think it sucks, but we might not see Kike signing announced maybe until spring training, until they can go ahead and do that.
Which is where, you brought it up last week. Maybe because of the fires, we've delayed some of those announcements. Maybe they already have kind of an agreement in place and it's like, yep, that's fine. As long as I know I've got a spot, keep going, keep moving forward.
It's either that or they're going to have to make some trades. They're going to have to make some trades to make some moves on the 40 man, because when they signed Tanner Scott, that put him at 40.
Yep.
So
And we have
maybe
that log jam in center field. So we've got Edman out there, but we've also got Pajes and Outman, and then Chris Taylor with,
so
what
it could be that the Yates deal isn't done, but it also could be that the Dodgers are starting to figure out how are we going to make room for him on the 40 man right now.
Mhm.
So look, I like those moves. Obviously, getting Tanner Scott, the bullpen. We saw how important the bullpen was last year. Amie, for me, this is an A+ off season for the Dodgers. If you are a Dodger fan, I don't know how you can be unhappy with what they've done.
Compared to 2 years ago when nothing happened?
Yeah, I mean, they basically rolled it back. They gave this group of guys a chance to come back and see if they can win the World Series again. And not only that, now they're bringing in reinforcements. It is just a very exciting time to be a Dodger fan. And I just, spring training can't come soon enough, right, Amie?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I cannot wait to get out there. Oh,
So from that excitement, let's go to dark times right now, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of you who are loyal listeners or
dark
have been
times.
or who have been following me
Mm.
know how I feel. But
Is this because of all the gifts I saw on all your comments on social media today?
yeah, let's get into it. So right before we started recording, they announced who made it to the Hall of Fame. There were 3 players that made it to the Hall of Fame. Amie, do you have that information?
So Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner.
That's right. Look,
What are you upset about? Because I have the note here, but I want to hear you say it.
Okay, it's coming. I know a lot of people, once the news broke, were expecting a rant. And so before I go on my rant,
Okay.
congratulations to all of them. Obviously, the Hall of Fame is a huge honor. CC Sabathia is, we thought maybe he might have a chance to get to 300 wins in his career. I think it's going to be really hard now to see a pitcher get to 300 wins. But
Well,
he
and
was
wasn't he pitching in that last game with his shoulder dislocated?
I mean, look, he had a great career. So for him to get in on a first ballot, that's huge. Billy Wagner, I know a lot of people had thought he should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. So congratulations to him. But I just want to read this statement before I go into my rant on
All
this
right.
show.
Hold on. I'm gonna start. You tell me when you're gonna start, and I'm gonna start a timer
Okay,
when it gets
don't start me
exorbitant.
yet. Don't
Okay.
start me yet. But I just want to
Okay.
say this: we all know that Amie is the voice of reason on this show. Amie is the one that tries to save me from myself. Amie is the one that my in my head, all I hear is Amie say, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? You act like you have the ability to do something." Why are
And
you laughing at me?
that comes from my best friend. So I can't even take credit for that
What
because
you
she says
gonna
it to
do?
me all the time. What are you gonna do about it?
What are you gonna do about it? All right. So this is why I'm prefacing my rant with this statement because I think this is a very logical response to today's news. And this comes from Cespedes Family Barbecue. Does it suck that some doofus didn't vote for Ichiro? Yeah. But let's spend our time, energy celebrating Ichiro for being a legend instead of getting angry at something that doesn't meaningfully alter his legacy. That is a very logical response, and that's the way we should all respond. However, I
Now,
am not logical,
starting
and
now.
I will tell you when to start. I want to just preface this. The reason why I'm angry, ladies and gentlemen, is Ichiro missed going into the Hall of Fame unanimously by one vote. One vote, one person. In the reports, we don't know who that person is yet. There is a rumor out there. I don't know if it's true that this person turned in a ballot and the only person they put on the ballot was Chase Utley. They didn't do any of it. So if that's true, all right, start my rant now.
All right. I'm gonna cut you off when it gets exorbitant. Go.
Ichiro not being unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame is fucking bullshit, Amie. It is the biggest, roundest, smelliest piece of fucking bullshit that I have ever seen in my life. The eye test. We talked about the eye test earlier on this show, right? Anybody in that Baseball Writers Association who doesn't look at Ichiro's career or looks at Ichiro's career and thinks, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, has to have some sort of brain deficiency because I have to either imagine the blood is not circulating in their body or they had a massive stroke. But this is the reason why I have issues with the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is broken. It is an amazing idea. I have said this for years. There are too many people in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame should be reserved for the elite of the elite. There is nothing wrong with being a very good baseball player who had a great career. But the Hall of Fame is for legends. The Hall of Fame is for people that we sit here and go, wow, when we see them play. There are people in the Hall of Fame. Do I say wow to them? No, I don't. Ichiro, I said wow, because Ichiro was a magician with that baseball bat. And for them to disrespect him, and I get it. It's no disrespect because he got into the Hall of Fame. Juan, why are you making such a big deal about this? He's a Hall of Famer. He should have gone in unanimously, just the same way that Derek Jeter. The same thing happened to Derek Jeter. He missed it by one vote. There are certain players that have played this game that should have been unanimous. There should not be only one player in Major League Baseball that has ever gone into the Hall of Fame unanimously, and that's Mariano Rivera. He's the only one to do it. This process is broken. I have lost respect for the Hall of Fame because of that. Part of me knew this was going to happen, so I was preparing myself. But then there was a part of me going, no, they can't do this. Not to Ichiro. Ichiro is the first Japanese-born player to go into the Hall of Fame. And the man came to Major League Baseball at 27 years old and put up the numbers that he put up, hitting over 3,000. Could you imagine if he came over at the same age as Roki Sasaki, what his numbers would be like? And for one person to have the temerity to not even put him on the ballot is fucking bullshit. Done.
Well, that was 3 minutes and 1 second of I'm gonna have to mark the cursing on this episode box. So
I'm
feel
sorry.
better?
I'm
Feel
sorry.
better?
I do feel better. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Like I
Let's
said,
let's focus on the people who did vote him in almost unanimously, because he did deserve that honor, and good for all of them. Like you
yes.
said, congratulations to all of them. I've got my Cooperstown shirt on in honor of all of our players today.
Look, I'm not going to go as far. Drink, by the way, everybody. I know some people have said that they should demand that the person who did not vote for him reveal himself, and he should be banned or he should have his vote revoked. But for me, it is just another example of why this Hall of Fame voting process is broken. The fact that they have not addressed it to try to fix it, it just makes me like, what are we doing here? Like,
Well,
what?
does it need to be different people voting on it? Is that part of the fix? Do you need to diversify the types of people who are voting on it? Because right now it's just media, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why they have those other committees. They have the Veterans Committee, where players vote, and there, there's just no. I guess, yeah, there's no perfect way of resolving this, but at the same time, I don't know why we have abandoned common sense. I really don't understand why
One
we are
today of all days.
why are we allergic to common sense? Like,
Because it's
sometimes, like, something is so obvious, Amy. How can we ignore it? The man was a Hall of Fame. It's the same argument. Like, I will never
it's
forget this.
Occam's razor, my friend, and common sense is just you're gonna give yourself an aneurysm or a heart attack.
I know. I know. I
I
really,
think you need to drink some water, my friend. You need to hydrate.
I
I'll do it
appreciate
for
you.
you. Look, you need some water.
I appreciate you giving me my platform to get that out of my system. I do feel better now. I can go ahead and do what Cespedes Barbecue recommends now, where I get to go and celebrate how great Ichiro is. I had faith in humanity that we were going to do the right thing, and they let me down. They let me down, and I just need to let it go. But it is,
But it didn't diminish the fact that he made it in pretty much. Let's just, you know what, for the sake of that, if we're saying that that vote only had one player on it, we're just going to slide that to the side. For your sake, asterisk, he made it in unanimously. There you go.
in my mind, yes, he definitely made it, and there's other players that should have been in there unanimously. I do think they should just stop with this whole percentage. Don't release the percentage. For me, I'll never understand, no matter how many times people explain to me how someone who doesn't get in on the first ballot is a Hall of Famer on the 10th time through, and it's like every year the percentage get higher. I'm
It could just be
surprised.
different people voting, different facets that are involved at that time. I know you want to either have them get in or not, but
Yeah.
in this case, we saw he was shy one vote of being unanimous. Maybe next year, depending on who's doing the voting, maybe that's not the case. So that might be why they try to spread it out so that you
They
don't.
need the thumb of judgment, Amy. That's what they should just be using the thumb of judgment. It's this or
Okay.
this, this or
Well,
this.
or they just don't release. I mean, I understand transparency, but does the transparency make you feel better? You don't get to vote,
No,
and you don't get to change the fact that whether it was unanimous or not, the vote already happened.
and you know what cracks me up is Carlos Beltran. I think this was his first time. No, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't
Uh,
want to before
this
Jose
is your
Ayala
realm, so I'm not even
before
gonna.
Jose Ayala comes after. I don't know if this was the first time that Carlos Beltran was on the ballot, but he got 70%, which means he has got a good chance that he's going to reach the 70. Is it 75 or 76 that's needed to get into the Hall of Fame? Do you know that?
I don't. This is where I let you lead because I'm just more like, hey, tell me the results.
All right, let's just go with let's say it's 76. I don't know, for some reason I have 76 in my head. No, it's 75. It is 75. So because Carlos Beltran is at 70%, I think he probably has a good chance of getting to 75. Now, I don't think Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer. I don't consider him the elite of the elite, but he was also the leader of that scandal in 2017, and I thought that would hurt him in his Hall of Fame votes. But it seems like people don't care about that, and they voted for him. So this is it's just, there's so many problems with the Hall of Fame vote that I mean, I was so secretly hoping. Okay, let me put it to you this way, Amie. If Kershaw doesn't go in unanimously, will you be upset?
I mean, I'd be frustrated, but it's one of those, I don't have control over it. So is he getting in? And if he does, what is my unbridled rage going to do?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
It's not going to change. Like, oh, you know what? Let me go change my vote real quick retroactively. And yes, it's surprise. It's unanimous. Like, these are the things, like, you just get used to being disappointed in life. Like, hopefully he gets in. Like, there should be no situation where he doesn't get in. But, whether it's unanimous or not, be prepared to be disappointed, my friend, because humanity.
He's gonna get in. I bet you he doesn't get in unanimously. There will be writers that will hold his postseason record against him, and that'll be their reason for not voting him in. Watch.
And that's what I'm saying. Just be prepared. I am an optimist in most cases, but you can't, like, you can't require common sense. And not everybody's going to vote the way you think they should vote,
So
unfortunately.
I'm curious, anybody watching the show, listening to the show, if there is a player that would have elicited the 3-minute and 1-second rant that I elicited on the show. If there is a player like that you feel so strongly should go into the Hall of Fame unanimously, and how would you react if they didn't? Like I said, there is a logical side of my brain that says,
Did he
hey,
make it in?
he made it in. A Hall of Famer is a Hall of Famer, man. It doesn't matter the percentage and all that stuff. But the
Did this
illogical
change your
side,
life, being upset?
the illogical side of my brain wins a lot of the times, and it was just allows me to release that. So thank you, Amie. I appreciate that, partner. Before we wrap things up, there's a couple of stories that we want to get into. A while back, we had mentioned that there was a Paul Skenes rookie card, a 101 of Topps. And Amie, what happened?
You sent me the message. I mean, I can give you the gist of it, but it got pulled.
It got pulled, ladies and gentlemen. An 11-year-old kid in Los Angeles pulled that card. And we had talked about how the Piratas of Pittsburgh had offered, what was it, 30 years of season tickets? And
I
then
think
there were some
so.
other things like that.
Spring training, all these other, like, bring your family, like,
all those perks in return for the card. Well, the Piratas reached out to that kid. Now, do you think that kid's going to accept that offer, Amie? He's an 11-year-old kid, and I'm just, he's
like,
in LA. He's probably a Dodger fan. He's probably a Dodger fan.
Can you give me the face value of what that would be? Well, I mean,
if you're the parents, what are you doing?
I have no idea. Like, do you keep them and sell them every season? Like,
well, exactly. It's just like, if you're an 11-year-old kid in LA and you say, what do I want Pirate season tickets for? What do I want? All this other stuff.
You ask for a buyout instead.
And that's what I wonder.
But is that buyout going to be worth it? Where, like, we've seen some people, do you want the buyout or do you want to go put it up for auction and see what you actually get for it? Because
let's watch this space. Let's see. This is going to be a telenovela with this 11-year-old kid. Let's see what this 11-year-old kid decides to do.
This family has to relocate to Pittsburgh now. And
with that, but I did think it was funny that the Piratas have already reached out to him, and I love.
It would be remiss not to, though. Like, shoot your shot, Pirates. Shoot your shot.
That's right. You do that, Piratas. Okay, last story before we wrap things up. Seems like there has been an official announcement for those of you guys are familiar. DodgerFest is back. So
Yes, so it has been confirmed. It will be February 1st. So that's a Saturday from 11 to 3 p.m. It will be held. There was some speculation back and forth. The Dodgers never really weighed in on it, but it will be held in the Dodgers parking lot. So lots B, D, and P. Tickets will go on sale to the general public on January 23rd. So tickets are going to be $20 each to access it. So prepare to hear the ranting on social media for people who have to buy tickets, because in prior years it was free. They've also done a lot of spending, and part of the proceeds are going to go to benefit the LA fires too. So just much like Juan, get your rants out there, but it's not going to change the price, $20.
what you gonna do? What you gonna
What
do?
you gonna do? The auto gates will open at 10 a.m. because again, it's from 11 to 3 p.m. And then they will be selling VIP experiences again, whether that's tours or pictures with the World Series trophy. Those will not go on sale till next week on January 28th. So if you buy your tickets this week, just wait. Patience. They will open up the VIP sales next week.
Amie, can you get clarification for me? Because I saw this on social media before we started recording. There's been some hoopla. Originally, in the original announcement, it said parking was free. And then they put out another announcement and they took out the free parking part of the announcement. So it is causing some confusion. Is parking no longer free? Do we know?
I'm not sure because the Dodgers did send out, so we do get some of that information ahead of time. They did send out a PR post. In the second revised one, I didn't see anything showing the cost. And then they sent something out for season ticket holders, and that will be just the day prior. But let me see. I'm just checking the websites and everything to see if there's anything else that got revised. I'm not seeing anything on parking. So
I am very curious if the Dodgers do end up, because you're right. I mean, everybody complains about
you
everything.
said the original one said that the parking was free?
Yeah. Bill Shaken of the Los Angeles Times acknowledged that the second release after the initial release no longer mentioned free parking.
Oh, okay.
It
I see
didn't
on
mention.
the first release, the press release, it was free. The second they have not mentioned, they took out the free part, but they have not mentioned what the cost would be to park. So
And
there is a revision on there, yes.
And like, people complain about everything, because I saw people complaining not necessarily about the $20, but why wasn't all of it going to the Red Cross or wherever they're redirecting the relief fund? They wanted all of it there.
Well, to that I
So,
would say when you go run your own event and you can distribute it how you want to. Like I guess this for me is like, if you want to complain, go ahead, but it's not going to change anything. So
and
like
we will take your complaint and we will put it in the circular file. Are you familiar with the circular file, sir?
oh, see, we used to call it the round file.
This is going into the circular file.
I mean, I understand the disappointment. I get it, especially in times like these. Like money can be tight. So it is a big deal, but at the same time, like it is what it is. If you guys want to go, here's your information.
And it looks like you will be there, right?
I
Or
will
we
be
don't
there
know yet.
regardless. So depending my capacity, we'll see how it is. I maybe there's a fan. If I end up going to cover, we'll see. So I will be there no matter what. It remains to be seen how.
And for those of you who have never been to Dodger Fest before, they do player interviews there. Just I believe was it last year or was it the year before? No, it was the year.
What are you thinking
They
of first?
When
And
they
then I'll
announced that
confirm.
they were going to retire Valenzuela's jersey. It was the year
That
before.
was 2 years ago because
Yeah, it
we
was
were
2
in the
years ago.
visitors bullpen when they announced
Yeah.
that, and this year we were in the home bullpen.
Yes, that's right. So they'll make announcements there for the upcoming season. As I said, they will have player interviews there. The experiences that Amie is referring to, you'll have autographs from players where you get to, a lot like these autograph sessions that have been going on in the beautiful hill of Montebello. So and you get
And there's a yard sale, so like giveaways from the previous year, you can buy at discounted prices. So if you missed a bobblehead or like a giveaway night, you can go pick those up.
Yeah, and in previous years where you could walk around the outfield grass and stuff like that, this year is gonna be a little different.
We don't want you
So
falling into a ditch where the clubhouse used to be. So they will still have tours. They said they would be doing like a Jackie Robinson-ish tour or something like that. You'll still get to go see all the trophies, the gold gloves, things like that, go through the press box. So there are different tours you can still do, much like I think it was 2020. They were still under construction. So we had FanFest in the parking lot, but they still had tours that you could go on and see, the internal parts of the stadium.
yeah, one of our listeners, DJ Jesse, sent me a video. Looks like it was a drone video of all the construction going on there. I mean, Dodge Stadium is tore up, but it looks like it's going to be ready for the season because we're not even at February yet.
Well, it's gonna have to be.
So that's going to do it for this episode. We covered a lot, Amie. Any last words? Anything else?
I don't. Oh, rest in peace, Bob Uecker.
Oh yeah, let's take some time on the uke. I did not know at 90 years old he was still calling games. I think that's really impressive.
It's commendable.
If anybody didn't know, the guy is hilarious. He really not only. I mean,
I heard he ad-libbed most of Major League. Like they gave him an idea of what they wanted his announcer role to be, and he ad-libbed all of that. Like, just chef's kiss.
When I first became aware of Bob Uecker was through a television program called Mr. Belvedere.
That's how I knew him. I didn't even know he was involved in baseball.
It was then later on when I saw Major League, and then I found out more information about how he played. When he passed away, he did a lot of appearances on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And
there was a couple articles with tons of clips on there, like where you could just see them all in one place, and the deadpan delivery that he did.
Yeah, but he was also, if you listen to him call a game, he was really good. He was just a really talented man, and it is an unfortunate loss, but he lived a very good life. And
Miller Lite commercials.
Yes,
I remember the Miller Lite commercials, but not knowing that he was like related to baseball again, because Mr. Belvedere was my introduction to him. And it was just like, hey.
Yeah, you young kids may know those as nosebleed seats. We used to refer them as the Uecker seats. That's how great those commercials were. He was just a very talented guy. Real quick on the way out, Amie, Major League, for me, top 5 baseball movie. Where does it stand for you?
Oh, it's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, and
that's a little outside.
Yeah, just a bit outside. Yeah, but that is an unfortunate loss. I'm glad that we get to pay tribute to the great Bob Uecker, and he's just one of those guys. Also, I think a great story in the sense that he wasn't a very good Major League Baseball player by Major League standards, so to speak. But the man was able to continue his career in Major League Baseball up until he was 90 years old. And that, to me, I think is super admirable.
That's the dream, right? That's the dream.
That's the dream. Anything else?
No, spring training's almost here.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. For those of you that have been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word, let people tell them about Baseball Shangri-La, have them join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments on everything that we talked about today. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.